Let's turn this system on. There we are. The Steam Deck. Now, this has been a really anticipated device. Should I call it a console or a PC? Well, guess we'll find out in the outro. So this has been very, very anticipated, as you can imagine. I've been waiting for mine since roughly about July of last year. Hopefully you can hear me over all the noise outside, but I thought I'd have some light outside. I thought it'd be a bit nicer. So far, it has definitely lived up to the hype. I'm really excited about this, and there's so much I want to do with it. But at the moment, this is just an unboxing. This is just a first impressions, you know, going over the UI and that kind of stuff. So not anything too exciting, but without further ado, let's dig in. And just before we dig in, like and subscribe. You have to. You've got no... And here it is, the Steam Deck. Now, I've been waiting for this since roughly, about July of last year when I first put down that pre-order, or whatever you call it, reservation. It's been like, what, 8 months? And finally, it is now here. I was waiting until December, and then they delayed it until February, so I've waited until February, and then they said they're launching it late February, so I waited until late February, and then I didn't get my email, so I had to wait until early March to get my email, and then once I got the email to actually pay for the product and buy it, then I had to wait another week for it to ship. So if you want to know how long it takes to ship, it's roughly about a week. And now, it is here. One of the funny things is that actually I was just doing chores. I was just taking out the bins, and the guy was just like, Ben, and I'm like, huh, what, who knows my name? And it was the guy delivering my thing, so he just gave it to me, and I'm like, oh yes, finally, let's open it. And I need to get the tape off, so that would be smart to do, wouldn't it? Let's get one of my cool knives. Look at that. Okay, this is not going that smoothly. Try not to cut towards you at all. There it is. There's the box. Your games are going places. That's the really cringe marketing term. But I feel like how the box has a lot of different languages and stuff. I think that's quite cool. Let's yeet that out the way. Take these bits of tape. Get my other cool knife out. And there it is. There's the charger. I believe this is a 45-watt charger. That goes to show just how beefy this thing is. Well, then again, my phone's 120, so I guess it's not that beefy, all things considered. The piece de résistance. Drum roll. I could actually just do that in post, but oh well. Let's just yeet the packaging out the way. Nothing particularly interesting on the packaging. It's cool, it actually comes with a carrying case as well. So let's open the oh, there's a safety lock on it. Hang on. Do not do this at home. This is very dangerous. Oh, flip. Is it in focus? Yep, it's in focus-ish. Wow, that is a chunky boy, isn't it? I did not expect it to be that big. Wow, that actually feels really nice in the hands. This feels a lot nicer than I was expecting it to. Sorry, I've been running around everywhere, so my hands are a bit sweaty. There you go. Do you guys like that look? The look where the light source is right over here and Steam Deck is here. But yeah, this is surprisingly big. I know other people have already done this before, but for comparison's sake, that's a Switch. Yeah, you can see just how chunky that is, can't you? I mean, I'm not complaining as such. Like, to be fair, I think my absolute ideal console would be something PS Vita sized. If I show you here, this is my PS Vita. It sits inside the screen. Sorry, it's a bit dirty, but yeah. Literally sits inside. That is absolutely insane. That goes to show just how massive this thing is. Like a lot of other reviewers say, it's not light as such. Like, I'm not carrying this on like, wait, this is a system. But it feels very well balanced, actually. Like, it is big. You can see the buttons on the back. But it feels alright for the size. Like, it feels well built, it feels sturdy, without feeling, you know, heavy. Thanks to the way that Valve have obviously curved the controllers and stuff, it does feel very comfortable. I do like this a lot. So, let's power it on. And there we go. Took a while to boot itself up, but it's done now. And see if the touchscreen works from here. It does, there we go. So I can use obviously the touchscreen to scroll, or I can use the controller. What about the touchpad? Okay, that's not doing anything. Down, down, down to the bottom of the sea. Oh yeah, I missed it, duh. Yeah, let's not look at my Wi-Fi networks. Camera cover. The update seems to be going relatively quickly. It's only about 2 minutes. So, oh, 1 second. We're from 2 minutes to 1 second. Wow, is that like magic or something? Thought I'd also zoom out a little bit just to give you a bit more of the entire device. And there we go. SteamOS has joined my network. Oh, I'm so happy I've got this. Again, I've been saying I've been waiting like literally 8 months for this or something like that. One of the first things I want to do with this is get my PSP library on there, because that's what originally I was going to do for the Switch. I was going to put my PSP games on the Switch and mod that, but then after, you know, Nintendo got super aggressive and I didn't want to lose my Nintendo account, so I was like, I'll just wait for the Steam Deck then. I don't know how well you can hear it, but there's a little bit of fan noise there. I don't know whether or not this system is at full power at the moment, but if it is, the fan noise isn't actually that bad. If not, then oh, that's not a good sign. But usually Steam takes your entire CPU usage when installing stuff, so hopefully that is literally the full thing, but I guess we'll see. Probably isn't something that you're going to be actually holding up like this a lot, although even if you do, it's not actually that heavy, at least at first impressions. It might be heavier afterwards, but... And we have to go through the setup again. I don't know why we have to do it again. Maybe just because that's what happens when you do the update, but that's what I'm going to do. Oh, okay, I've got to sign in, so yeah, let's not have that shown publicly. So let's give some impressions of the UI then. At the moment, yeah, it's definitely a functioning UI. There is a bit of lag, and I can't tell if that's just the controller or not. Try the touchscreen. Yep, there is definitely lag. This isn't a solid 60 FPS. That's not too surprising because Steam on PC is not a completely solid experience either. And obviously this is, you know, a relatively new product, so it will obviously get better over time. But one thing I really don't like is these buttons, this Steam button. You probably can't even hear it because it is, yeah, the quick setting and the Steam button barely feels like you've even pressed it. There's no feedback or anything. See, like if I do that, I can't tell, but then all of a sudden, there we go. You can kind of tell, but it's like, that's not, it doesn't feel great at all. It's still usable. I'm not like really complaining or anything. The haptic pads, I thought they worked mostly like trackpads. Maybe that's just in desktop mode, but they're not doing that here at the moment. Controller sticks feel really nice, as you would imagine. They feel fine. Haven't got any issues with stick drift in my, you know, just opening the console. D-pad feels very nice. It feels basically a bit stiffer than an Xbox One D-pad. Not quite like a PS4 or a Switch D-pad. Right triggers, yeah, they feel nice. Feel a little bit lighter than I would expect, but I guess I prefer that, so that's good. And then you got the quick buttons, which are a little harder to get to, but they are there if you need that for whatever reason. Then again, I have relatively small hands, so that's probably why. And also the fan's going a bit crazy at the moment. Let's have a look what we got here. So in the settings, I like to mess around with the settings. Got your standard stuff, 24-hour clock. I prefer it to be AM and PM. Software updates, we just did that. Yeah, I prefer the stable one. Ooh. I can change the host name. Display. I actually think the display looks really nice. Like a lot of people saying it's not a high quality display, but it looks about the same as the Switch display, like the old Switch. Maybe a bit better than that actually, so I think it looks absolutely fine. This is supposed to be a cheap gaming device, or relatively cheap, so I'm not that bothered. This is just my raw impressions of the system. Controller. Yeah, the haptics aren't great. I was typing with the keyboard and yeah, it's not the best thing. Try downloading stuff, shall we? So here's one my friend recommended me called Wii Tanks. It's basically, as you can imagine, based on the Nintendo game on Wii Party. So let's see. It doesn't know, so that'd be good. I'm gonna do a full, like, a whole bunch of game testing in another video. Okay, yeah, there we go. Let's say, can I install it? There we go. I have pretty decent internet here, so yeah, that it's installing very quickly, which is nice. I mean, certainly it's not a big game by any means. Yep, there we go. It's all done. So that SSD is really kind of kicking in there. Let's have another one. Sonic Mania is one that I really want to try on here. Sure, I'm going to agree to give my soul away. Again, let's test the downloading. I'm actually quite surprised it downloads this quickly. Yeah, I have to click the download again for some reason. Like, there are definitely some, like, quirks to the system, but if you've ever been on PC, you're used to this kind of stuff, so I'm not super annoyed by it by any means. Even while we're downloading, the system is still relatively usable, which is good. There we go. It might actually be easier to use a touchscreen on some certain elements, because yeah, sometimes I can't quite tell if something's highlighted or not. Like for instance there, I know that's highlighted. When I go down to here, it is blue. Like I would prefer a little box around it. But while we're waiting for those to download, so you got the notification decks there, friends, quick settings. So quick settings is quite important. Even airplane mode, because obviously you might want to use this on a plane, so that's quite important. Bluetooth, night mode. What's night mode look like? Oh, it's just the filter thing. Okay, yes, fair enough. 90% of the battery charge, that's pretty good. Performance overlays. I do like the performance overlays, so I'm going to be using those quite a lot, and this is probably my favorite section here. So you can obviously limit it to 30 FPS if you want to save battery or you just prefer the stability, but as far as I know, this particular frame rate limiter is a lot better than most games. So if you just want to put it to 30 FPS, you may as well just do it from here and anywhere else, so it's even more convenient. TDP limit, so that basically just essentially stops the CPU from getting as much power. So if you want to extend battery life, or you just don't need the extra grunts, like if you're playing a 2D platform or something, you can put the power limit down so that you can save battery. And manual GPU clock. Now, one thing I'm really interested in, I think that a lot of people have looked over, is the scaling filter here. This is basically to do with upscaling everything. But if we go right to the end, you can see FSR there, and FSR is a really decent technology that's competitive to NVIDIA DLSS, and basically you can render the game at a lower resolution and play it at a higher resolution, so you in theory get the same resolution but higher FPS. But a lot of people think of it that way, but I don't really think about it that way, because you get a lot of diminishing returns the lower the resolution is. So you're going to get a much better image upscaling from 1080p to 4K than from something like 400p to 800p. Even though there are a similar level of upscale, it's not going to be nearly as nice. as that would be. So really, I would use FSR more for plugging to an external monitor than I would for actually the system itself. The touchpads, they don't feel too bad, and the haptics feel fine, but nowhere near something like the Switch's or Joy-Cons or anything. Unlike the Switch, which they're actually making a profit from, I highly doubt that Valve is making a profit from like the cheapest version of this. Maybe like the £500 version, they're probably making a profit, but nowhere near cheapest model. Hopefully I'm not rambling on too much. Also, one thing to keep in mind if you're buying the 64 gig model of this is that they're going to download a lot of compatibility layers as well. So it's going to have like Steam Proton, Steam Linux runtime, and those can be up to like, you know, 5 gigs or something. So along with the operating system, you're probably going to have less than 30 gigs left just on the system itself. You'd basically have to get a micro SD card, much like you would on the Switch. Oh, I can claim rewards. Ooh, I want to claim rewards. Yes, I've got rewards now because I have a Steam Deck. Basically, this is what Valve wants you to use, at least for the most part, so that's why I'm using it. This video is not like, oh, a comprehensive overview. This is just me having to go with it for now. Oh, okay, that is getting a little bit loud now. But this is reminiscent of the Switch in a lot of ways. And that's good, because the Switch is awesome, so feeling how hot it is underneath. Not bad, actually. I think I'm going to try 2 games for this video. So I'm going to download a bunch of games, and I'll be back in a bit to try 2 games. So while I wait for the games to install, particularly Rocket League. Rocket League is like 20 gigs now. It used to be like 8 when I played it back in the day. I thought, while we're waiting, I'll go into desktop mode. Now, one thing that I found quite interesting about the mouse, at first it didn't quite feel right. It felt a little bit off, but what I've actually found out, as you can see there, it's actually mapped as a trackball. I think is really cool because even the vibration motor makes it feel like it's I don't know if you've ever used a trackball before, but this is exactly how it feels, and you can kind of just slide it over. So I think it's actually quite a cool effect. The only thing that I don't like is it can be a bit difficult to click sometimes. Like for example, if we go to Steam, see? Sometimes when I try and click, it moves the mouse over a bit, so that makes it quite hard to actually click on stuff. I want to get a bunch of emulators set up as well, and as far as I know, I can show them straight from the Discover here. I don't actually have to go straight to like the internet or anything for it. I know a lot of people are trying Windows out on Steam Decks, but A, I really don't want to just destroy my Steam Deck, thanks. That's not my kind of thing. And B, I actually really want to try using Linux as the main OS on here, because with something like a secondary device like a Steam Deck, for example, I don't need to do nearly as much as I do on my main computer, so it's an excuse to use this as my main Linux version. I also even got a Bedrock launcher. Well, that would be really interesting, because Bedrock will run a lot better on here than Java, but that is also something I want to try as well, as running Minecraft Java on here, although with that you can't use controller, which is a bit awkward, so you'd have to, you know, you could move the mouse, but you'd have to plug in a keyboard in order to move at all. Okay, the keyboard just doesn't want to show up. That's really cool. Oh, there you go, you got Blender there. Yeah, you got Godot, got Blender, Critter, Super Tux Kart, obviously. Need Super Tux Kart. It is a little bit on the glitchy side, though. So at the moment, you do need a mix of the touchscreen and the mouse in order to get this to work as it should. Like, Linux doesn't really work that well with the touchscreen, so the fact that it's actually working is pretty decent, because a lot of the like tablet PCs that I've used and stuff, they really don't work that well with touchscreens at all. Like, the drivers just aren't supported on the Linux kernels. Touchscreen actually feels really responsive and nice. The only thing I'm not sure is how up to date are these repositories. So definitely there's a bit of improvement to do on the desktop side, but on the actual SteamOS side it runs pretty well. There's a lot of stuff on here though, so that's good. Right, anyway, I'll do a whole separate video doing the desktop. Might just quickly go on Firefox as well. Yep, that looks very Firefox to me. Please can we mine your data? Again, this is what it sounds like roughly. So it pretty much sounds like a laptop. So if, you know, normal laptop fans annoy you, then this will probably annoy you as well. But if not, then that's what it sounds like. And you can always put like headphones on and stuff. And it's scrolling through a web browser. It's handling a web browser just fine. I'm sure there's a way that you can set it so that touchpad just shows up, but I don't know how to get that to just show up. So here we go. I thought I'd try it in the garden as well, just to see what it's like in daylight. It's getting a little brighter now, but as you can see, not that bad actually. Like, it looks a bit worse on camera, but in person, it actually is relatively readable. And this is a 256 gig version, so this is the one without that edge glass display or whatever they call it. And yeah, even though it's certainly not bright by any means, it's still perfectly usable. Like, even in this kind of brightness, I can still see what I'm doing just fine. Maybe if it's like super bright, direct daylight, you might not be able to see what you're doing, but for the most part, it's absolutely fine. Didn't really need that edge display. So just for this video, I'm going to test 2 games. First one I wanted to test out is Teardown. Now, Teardown's really interesting because it didn't actually have AMD drivers until about half a year ago, I think. It would only run on Nvidia, and then eventually it did have AMD drivers, and it would run a bit better, but it's still a very demanding game. So if this actually runs decently at 800p, I'll be very surprised. surprised. So let's see if it even boots up. Because I think this is one of the unsupported... No, not unsupported. One of the untested games. So we'll have a look. Okay, magnifying tool. I don't think I need that, but thank you. 60 FPS so far. Okay, well, we're in the menu. Okay, so we're using the stick instead of the trackpad. Only very recently has this game actually had a controller update. Before it's mouse and keyboard only. Oh yeah, the UI is a bit small, isn't it? Yeah, let's leave it a high render quality at 100%. I don't think this is going to go very well. Wow. Okay. I am very impressed with this performance. Like, I know it's only 800p and it's only at 30 FPS, but... Oh, there you go. You can really hear the fans working. It's not even that loud. Running at 30 FPS, I'm actually kind of surprised it's booted, to be honest. This is working absolutely fine. Keep in mind that this game is fully ray traced, right? So every single light, every single reflection, you can see there, right? See, for example, you can see the shadow of this here, right? If I break that, shadow's gone. This is a fully ray traced game. So the fact that this is running on the Steam Deck at 800p, I hadn't even had to put the resolution down. And this is already running at a solid 30. And this is not the hardest level in the game as such to run, but definitely one of the harder ones. I am actually genuinely, like, really amazed this runs. Okay, we're getting a bit of slowdown now that we're in a car. Yeah, we're dipping down to the low 20s now. But with all the motion blur and everything that this game has, it's actually not nearly as bad as you'd think it would be. Variable refresh rate would be really nice though, like having AMD FreeSync, for example. But this is running surprisingly well, and I'll do more testing of it in the upcoming game video, but that is just really impressive. And here's the other game I wanted to test, Rocket League. And you might be saying, well, why do you want to test Rocket League? It runs quite easily on the Switch. So, well, the reason why I want to test this is mainly because Rocket League has actually had Linux and macOS versions removed. I think I've talked about this earlier in the video, but whatever. Only the Windows version is now currently supported. Like, you can still play Rocket League on macOS or Linux, and I've done that before. And I didn't make the video on it, did I? But I did that on my Mac, which I previously had. You won't get up to date, and especially you won't be able to play online, which for a game like this, that's quite important. I mean, now you can't even get Rocket League on Steam anymore. You have to go to the Epic Games Store. But let's see how well the Windows version works on here, because this will be a good test of Proton and how far it's come. That's what it sounds like, a full pelt. Really not that loud, especially if you have headphones on or you have the speakers on relatively loud. Are you going to launch? Rocket League usually does take a while to launch. And it's working! Okay, wow. Booted up. What settings do we have it on? Do we have on max? Okay, yep, we have max everything apart from anti-aliasing. So let's see how well this runs then, because at the moment it's 60. So I won't do an online match at the moment. I will just do the training mode. Salty Shores is the hardest stage in Rocket League to run. Like, even on the PS4 and Xbox it lags, so... And so far, there is no lags, wow. But even on the PS4 and Xbox this lags, so the fact that it's not lagging on a Steam Deck, and again, everything's on high, the only thing it isn't on is anti-aliasing. I think I turned that off myself on my other computer because I'm running on a high resolution display, so I didn't really need anti-aliasing, but this is fully playable. Proton is doing an amazing job. I am genuinely shocked at how good the performance is on this thing. Like, this is a lot better than even I expected. Like, I expected some bugs because the Proton and everything. But anyway, there we go. Back to outro me, I guess. Oh, hang on. Why am I in that menu now? So that's the video. Overall, the Steam Deck is an absolutely fantastic console and hopefully gets better over time, seeing as Valve seems to be very committed to it. But I'm genuinely really happy with this. I'm getting more and more happy the more I use it, which is not something that always happens. Sometimes I actually get kind of disappointed by buying something, but so far, the only thing that I don't really like that much is how big it is. It has to be this big in order to not only reach that price point, but to actually be relatively comfortable. I mean, it's basically just an Xbox One controller cut in half and has a screen in the middle of it. So it is a little bit unwieldy when you're trying to take it away with you places, but to be honest, it's not actually nearly that bad as you'd think it'd be. And besides that, screen's absolutely fine, even this 256 gig version, which doesn't have that, etched glass or whatever. The resolution's fine, it looks a lot better than you'd think it would be, again, in person. The controls are amazing, the controller, like the sticks, even the buttons, they all feel fantastic. Again, like an Xbox One controller. If you've used one of those, you'll be just at home here. It doesn't even get that hot. I've only seen it go up to about 70 degrees at absolute most, and that's like with, the hardest games you can run on it. So overall, it's an absolutely fantastic device, and at the price point, Valve done an amazing job with the system, and I'm really, really happy with it. So thanks for watching the video. If you like it, like. If you don't like it, then it doesn't matter, because you can't see the dislikes anyway. Subscribe and follow me on Twitter, because I post stuff on Twitter about this. See you.